Hi, this is Becky Hubbard again out of the Billings office, and I wanted to have this opportunity to talk a little bit more about open adoption and how it actually works. This is something that we will be talking more in depth at the workshop, but allow me to give you some general guidelines. The definition is that the child's birth family will have an ongoing relationship with you and the child. And the basis of open adoption is just the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Adoption works well when all the parties can try to understand what the other party is feeling, and it works particularly well when everyone tries to understand what is best for the child. That's why we spend so much of our time talking with you about birth parents. And on the flip side of it, we do a lot of talking about you when we counsel birth parents. The spirit of friendship can sometimes be a stretch for both adoptive parents and birth parents. What we hope is that you all develop a true friendship, that you are accepting and welcoming of each other in spite of hard times and maybe differing views. With the exception of rare circumstances, which I will discuss in a bit, we do expect you to exchange names, addresses, phone numbers, emails. I like to go back to the saying that Oprah has about secrets make you sick. And our idea is that we want everyone to be as transparent as possible. The quality of the relationship is more important actually than the quantity, and we've learned this through the years. The idea is, do we honor and respect one another, and do we always do what is ultimately in the child's best interests? And in our experience, we've learned that adoptive parents cannot rely on birth parents to be the initiators. Birth parents are often timid, they don't want to intrude, and they don't feel like they actually deserve to have a relationship. So, particularly in the beginning, we really do have to rely on adoptive parents to assert themselves and to be, a welcome to birth families. I think I mentioned in a previous talk that one adoptive mother said to me, "How can we welcome the child and not his birth parents?" And I just thought that was so profound. So, hospitality is the gateway to adoption at its very best. And at Catholic Social Services, we really strive for ethical, humane, child centered adoption rather than the glitzy kind of marketing center adoption where a child is actually a commodity. We do not think that serves anyone well, particularly the child. So our goal has nothing to do with numbers, but everything to do with the quality of the placements and how the children will thrive as they grow up. Again, we'll talk more about this at the workshop, but I'll just give you a brief overview about how the process works. When you are chosen by expectant parents, an introductory meeting is arranged by the social worker for everyone to attend. And again, through the use of the portfolio, which we'll talk about later, you are chosen, and then you will meet where the birth mother lives. We like to think about this introductory meeting as a no strings attached. It's an opportunity for everyone to get together to meet each other, to see if it feels like the right match. Is this someone that you feel you could have a friendship with for a lifetime? And on the birth parents' part, are these people who they are, who I think they are from what everything I've read and seen? Everyone has a veto power about this match, and we really encourage you not to be desperate. If you meet a birth mother and it just doesn't feel right, the honorable thing really is to let us know that you don't think it's going to work. And this will be one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life. But we want you to feel that this is a comfortable match. If everyone feels good about it, then a planning meeting is set. And this is where the relationship is further defined and developed. And this is always facilitated by the Catholic Social Services social worker. Basically, we want the spirit of friendship to prevail, and this friendship should be reciprocal. Sometimes visiting at one house, sometimes another. Occasionally, birth parents won't have funding to be able to travel to visit you, so perhaps you can meet in between towns if you don't live in the same town. It's important to do things that you enjoy, whether it's camping, going to movies, golfing, watching a baseball game, what friends do with each other. We like to have you participate in major events and then just everyday occurrences, things like barbecues and lunches, maybe inviting them to a child's Christmas program, a musical or athletic event, things on that order. What we would hope for would be something on the order of seasonal visits. But this does depend on geography. If you live close, you're going to have more than 4 visits a year probably. But if you live across the state, it may be hard to get together. So you maybe have to be a little more creative in using Skype and email and texting and phoning and that kind of thing. What we hope for is that maybe you could get together not on Christmas but around the holidays sometime, and perhaps not on the child's birthday but around the child's birthday sometime. Things to keep in mind. Sometimes this friendship is closer with grandparents or with the birth father rather than the birth mother. Each adoption is unique, and we can't forecast exactly who the players are or exactly how it plays out. However, our expectation is that the birth family will be an important part of this child's life, and this can't occur in a pen pal relationship. And it isn't okay to use the excuse that, oh, I can't have a friendship with these people. If that's the case, then it's not the right match, and you have to have the courage to say it's not a match. Again, we just have to tell you not to be desperate. Our experience tells us that hospitality occurs maybe not because the birth parents have shared goals or lifestyles or values. Birth families often are dysfunctional. And quite frankly, so are adoptive families, kind of dysfunctional at times. We've witnessed outlandish hospitality by generous adoptive parents who've embraced women imprisoned, who have welcomed 14-year-old birth mother who has multiple possible birth fathers, and adoptive parents who've made schizophrenic birth mothers feel at home. Open adoption is much like a marriage. When we marry our spouses, we welcome the people that our spouse loves. We hope that you will stretch yourselves, but we don't want you to make decisions to take on a relationship that has little chance of succeeding. You will be given choices in regards to your preferences, and we want you to be honest. It's not fair to yourself or your child if you are not honest. Other things to keep in mind, that situations do change. Birth parents go on to marry, they go to college, they join the military, and often the adoption experience will not always be as dominant as it seems to be in the beginning. Now, this is not to say that birth parents go away. We never want birth parents to go away, and we work very, very hard so that does not happen. But the relationship just becomes, after a period of time, just more relaxed, more give and take, more comfortable. as time goes on. Initially, um, I, I think the relationship can be hard because it centers around the birth of the child and the great loss of the birth family initially. But birth families do go on to heal. They go on to do other things in their life. So again, it's just not as dominant. But eventually, with your encouragement, we hope the child forms his or her own relationship with the birth family and that they eventually become the hosts and begin to dictate the amount and the quality of the relationship. So, how do we measure the quality of the relationship? These are questions that we pose to you. Did we work with each other? Were we respectful? Did we mess with each other? Or were we affirming and helpful? Did we find ways to honor our differences? Will our child be content with the relationships that were begun at birth? Are children at peace with what has been done with them? Will they have all the answers? And were the decisions well thought out and owned? So, when, I'm sure you're wondering, is an adoption not fully open? And this occurs rarely. One circumstance is that there are issues surrounding the pregnancy that make it difficult for birth mother to fully participate in openness. And it could be that she's just too fragile, and the idea of connecting with you and seeing this baby is so painful that she needs to take time apart. Or perhaps some people in her life, in fact, everyone in her life, never knew she was pregnant. And privacy is a huge issue. Again, we do think that secrets make you sick. And so our job is to continue to counsel her, to help her kind of embrace this part of her life, embrace her child, and embrace you. But again, we don't dictate this. We have to honor and trust how she feels about openness. Um, the second circumstance is that if an expectant parent is not able to adhere to boundaries, and this could be because they have an issue with drugs, or perhaps they have a mental health issue that doesn't help them be able to adhere to boundaries established in this relationship. Occasionally, it could be a legal problem. And, if the child were at risk in any way, the child is why we're doing this, and a child's safety is always paramount. So if there is not a fully disclosed relationship for one reason or another, we still try to have a semi-open relationship. And this occurs that Catholic Social Services continues to act as the intermediary, that letters and pictures would be sent through the agency, that you would still have visits, but it would be at a location, a neutral location, so there would be no information exchanged about where you live. Our hope would be, even with all these circumstances I've talked about, that it would evolve into an open relationship, that you would begin to develop a trust, that you could exchange identifying information. So what, may you ask, do we do as social workers? And let me tell you a little bit about what we feel our role is. We are there to model and encourage directness. We're there to help put all the issues on the table during the intro and the planning meetings so that there aren't surprises and that people can be absolutely transparent and honest with each other. We also are the historian of promises made. Um, it's amazing, kind of in the excitement of the moment, what adoptive parents do promise. And believe me, we will talk to you over and over again about not over promising. It is so much better to um, be conservative in what your expectations about this relationship, rather than just saying, oh, anything goes. You can call us anytime, you can just stop by and visit. You don't even have to let us know beforehand. Any amount of visits would be great. That's not going to be the case when you actually have your baby. You are going to be busy. And even though you thought you were well intentioned by making those promises, what it does is just set birth parents up for feeling like they have been betrayed by you. So we will help you try to be very accurate in expectations, and we will be there to write things down so there is an understanding of what people said about this relationship. And if misunderstandings occur, and they do sometimes, these are relationships that we're talking about, but if they do occur, then we can step back in and be an intermediary and can maybe renegotiate expectations. It's our job to help everyone look to the future to see how this plays out. We've had many, many years of experience, not only in adoption, but in open adoption and working with children and seeing them from birth to, age 25, and watching how adoption has played out in their lives. So it's our job and our responsibility to help you all understand what this looks like for a child in the future. We are there to speak for the child who has no voice in this. This is a tiny baby, and all these decisions are being made, and we want to be that voice for the child. And finally, we just want to be available to everyone as needed for support. This is a very joyful time, but a trying time, one filled with lots of emotions. And our job is just to try to make this as smooth as we possibly can for everyone. We have to quote our favorite guy again. We begin this journey with you, but ultimately it's yours. As adoption professionals, as hosts to a cast of bruised and vulnerable strangers, we bring people together and set them up for rewarding relationships. It will always be up to them, though, to breathe life into these connections. The relationship is theirs, not ours, and that is as it should be. I'd like to leave you with these final thoughts. None of us own our children. Some are given the privilege of conceiving, while others are granted a child through the incredible gift of adoption. Open adoption is not always easy, and it's not always convenient. We do not dismiss the pain you have endured in your attempts to bring a child into your family. The hurt is very real, just as real as the loss incurred by every birth family and every adopted person. Open adoption is a means to bring healing and wholeness to everyone. Thank you so much for listening.